You didn't tell me about that. Was okay? And touch wood, I think we're live. Let me just check and get ready for.
Says it's live on my end, so
Is it?
yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing here. I've never done
Excellent.
Facebook before.
Hooray. So
Welcome
oh
everybody to this opening live stream, which is a joined effort between myself, Daniel Hands, the RPG therapist, and some chap who I've only recently met and is now, I'm sorry to say, a permanent fixture in my life. Sorry, Brian.
yeah, no worries. Yeah, so yes, hello, my name's Brian Hamilton. I'm the host of Initiative Play Therapy, which is a YouTube channel as well. And I don't produce as often as Daniel does. I do it more for fun, um, but yeah, but I saw Daniel's channel, and he was advertising it on Geek Therapy Community, I believe, on Facebook, and I was like, I am getting in on that as soon as I can. And then I reached out to him and basically said, like, hey, would you want to do like some sort of a live stream and talk about like tabletop RPGs and how we use them in therapy? And yeah, and so here we are.
Let's just see if I can, because I'm not entirely sure what I'm doing here. I don't know if we're on the Geek Therapy Community here, or if.
Yeah, I was just looking at that as well, and if we're not, we'll
Oh,
figure it
okay.
out.
Yeah. So, why is it not go? Oh. Okay, so that's there. One share. So, Brian, tell us a bit more about what we're planning to do today, whilst I kind of sit here and panic about. I have been doing live streams. I mean, for ages now. I am also a member of a writing group that meets online called the International Writers Fellowship. Through November, which was NaNoWriMo, we did live streams every single day, without fail, every day, no problem. The instant I try and do something for RPG therapists, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. It's not working the way it's supposed to.
So one of the things that we'd kind of been talking about was that we use different modalities and we use different ideas about we use different interventions in talking about how our how we're using tabletop RPGs within the different modalities that we're using. So it's because it was kind of like, just to give some background on like where I come from and how I got into all of this was because it was during COVID. And we all got, we all had to move our sessions online. And I was working with little kids and trying to figure out how to handle things with them. And I had been using a lot of like trauma focused CBT, which uses a lot of like drawing and artwork and and crafts and things like that. And and that was working great when we were in person. But then when we were doing it in, like when we were doing it online, I'd go like, can you show me your picture? And they would go like this. I'm like, could you bring it down just a little bit? And then they'd go like this. And so we couldn't really it just wasn't working anymore. And a lot of times it was really hard to keep them on camera and keep them in, like engaged. Whereas like when I was in person, I was really able to like manage a lot of that much more effectively. So I went on Facebook, because there was actually, there were teletherapy groups there that that specialized in play therapy, and everybody was in the same boat as I was. People who had been doing this for decades were suddenly like, I don't know how to do this anymore, because I don't know how you engage a client in play when you're doing it online. And so I was realizing that everybody was lost. I kind of just was like, well, what can I do? Like, what do I know that I can play online? And the one thing I knew was tabletop RPGs, because I'd used Roll20. I'd played games with friends of mine, online that way. And so I was like, okay, well, I can make that work. So I was using I looked up really quickly on Drive-Through RPG to see if I could find anything that that would be appropriate for younger kids, and I found Hero Kids RPG, which is one that I use pretty extensively. Found out they had a character sheet. It's a little broken now, but it still works. But they had a character sheet on Roll20 that you can use to do your tabletop RPGs with Hero Kids, and so away I went, and um, yeah, and so I didn't really know what I was doing at first. I was kind of just throwing things together and kind of hoping, seeing what would stick, and but as I got more involved in it, I started bringing in uh, interventions from family attachment narrative therapy. And then later I got trained on parent child interaction therapy and was like, oh, this dovetails really well with what I've already been doing. And so, so now I use primarily like PCIT, at least with like young kids. And then if I'm working with like older kids, I'm using, like teens and young adults, and even, middle-aged and older adults. Like I tend to use kind of a variation on what's called the personal hero technique, to try and kind of help them with whatever issues that they're struggling with. And yeah, so that's kind of, yeah, that's how I got into this, was just like desperation.
Yeah, I think. Well, the pandemic did a number on the entire industry, really, didn't it? And we all had to just muddle our way through. I mean, I don't know what it was like over in the US, but there was a massive pushback against any form of online therapy to begin with, because the whole thing was, well, we can't, if you're not in the same room, how can you be fully congruent? How can you be in the moment?
Yes.
How can you, do active listening, etc.? And so, and I actually ran I was director of a very small counseling organization, and I got outvoted, and we was just, the entire thing was just shut down because people weren't prepared to offer online therapy. And and only after a few months of people having to go without therapy did the internet start to pick up the slack.
Yeah. And yeah, we actually we here in the States, like or at least at the clinic where I was working, we rallied pretty quick. Like I went to my supervisor, or the manager of the company. It was like he had kind of been toying with doing some like online stuff, and I'm like, we need to get it up now. And yeah, and he threw it together, and we were able to get it up by that Saturday. And we're able to offer online therapy. But yeah, kind of we ran into a similar thing where it was like a lot of our clients were initially really reluctant to do online therapy at all. Like they were just, and most of them were pretty open to moving online. There were like 3 or 4 of mine that wanted to stay and do in person, and I was like, well, okay, and I put in, I would go in with my mask, and I had like a face shield and everything. But then like every single one of them that wanted to do in person wound up getting COVID, and I was like, okay, we're not doing this anymore.
Yeah, about right, isn't it?
And so yeah, so that's when that's how I moved exclusively online, was because I didn't want to kill my clients.
Well, between
or
you
have
and
them
me,
kill me.
yeah, between you and me, quite a decent therapeutic idea. They leave in one piece. So a quick plan for today then. So just to let people who are tuning in either now or later, so we're for a little while it's just going to be you and me talking, because we've both got our own channels. We wanted to bounce some ideas off each other to begin with, and then at around about, I've already forgotten what time it is. 10 your time? And then
9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Yeah.
I will never get used to international time zones.
Yes.
But so 10 a.m. your time, 2 p.m. Central Time, and I think 3 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be joined by a couple of other therapists, Erika Walker and Dani Welch, who are also members of the geek therapy community. I believe we're actually currently broadcasting on the geek therapy community. So if we have anybody there or on our channels, obviously, please do ask some questions, engage. We've been given permission by Josue from the geek therapy community to broadcast here, and he said that if this goes well, he'd be open to other people doing similar things. So no pressure at all whatsoever. But even if people find this mind-numbingly boring, please engage with the content so that Josue does it more often. So yeah, so my route into this is slightly different to yours. I did mine much like Desperation from your own out of desperation. I always do. I'm not very good with technology. Desperation, but not quite for COVID. Sorry, guys, I can't. I can't multitask. Because I had a young client come to me who just really couldn't engage with the therapeutic process at all. He developed selective mutism, and just every time I asked him a question, it was like, yeah, no, I just, poor guy, trying so hard, but we just couldn't get anything out of him. I played chess with him because he loved chess. We drew pictures. We did art pouring, just lots of just anything to just try and engage him and feel safe and secure. And as I say, the little guy was really doing his best, but just couldn't get any further into the session. So I'd been bandying around the idea of using RPGs with clients for well, ever since I did my basic training, actually. So I thought, okay, maybe this will work. So I broke out the old D&D Essentials kit, which is down here, I think. Created a character. Spent 2 sessions creating a character with him, and just introduced him to Fandalin. Had a local go up to his Dragonborn sorcerer, said, "Hello, traveler, welcome." And without any hesitation, this kid started talking. And it was like, oh my God, I'm doing this for the rest of my life now. And yeah, we were just playing games because, and we'll talk about how it works in a moment. There's a huge separation between the character and the client. And as soon as I saw that the power of that moment, everything changed. And then it became a competition with myself to see how fast I could meet other geeks in the world. And lo and behold, here you and I are talking. And oh my goodness, we also already have Erika here. So we're gonna have I nearly said the phrase, "We're gonna have a 3-way." I myself right there. Anyway, on that note, hi Erika.
Welcome.
Thank you for not saying that.
I would never, would I?
I mean,
okay, yeah.
You might say it, but you probably wouldn't mean it. Not in the like for real sense.
For real, yeah. So Brian, this is Erika. Erika, this is Brian.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. I wanted to respond to something Daniel was saying too, because he was talking about his one client, because that's kind of been my experience with kids, right? Like, and I don't know, like Erika, if you've had the same experience where like your kids, like what I have found is like when I'm engaging with play therapy with kids, like they open up in a way that you would never expect. Like they're using, like all you have to do is ask them like who their favorite TV show character is, or have them play with like dolls, and like you see very quickly like some of the issues that they're working with. Ask them how their day was. Like they will just shut down faster than anything I've ever seen. And like, good. Fine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But what's your experience been like with that, Erika?
Yeah, I love play therapy same reasons, because a kid can tell you all about all of the things going on in life without telling you about all of the things going on in life.
Yeah. But yeah, I've seen it situations where it's like the one that I find that's really the most helpful, because a lot of times they'll talk your ear off about like whatever their favorite movie is or whatever their favorite show is, right? And as soon as you like find out who that main character is, if you know the movie, then you can start psychoanalyzing the character, and you can see very quickly that they're they're recognizing and engaging with you, because a lot of times whatever's going on with that main character is what they're dealing with. And so like for example, like if it's like something like Sonic the Hedgehog or something, like, right, there's an opening line in that movie where it's like somebody would tell me to do something and I would do the exact opposite, and like almost guaranteed there's something about that kid that they're struggling with, that that they identify with that. What's your background in play therapy?
So I am a clinical social worker, and let's see, I started in community mental health, and I was the early childhood specialist right out of grad school with no play therapy training.
Fine.
And my clinical supervisor said, you need to take play therapy classes. Like, when do they start? Because I was, I had a 4-year-old on my caseload, and I didn't know what to do with them, really.
Oh, yeah.
So I got my, when did I finished, I went through like a 9-month program before, that was kind of before some rules changed, which I was glad that I got to do it that way. And then I got my RPT and my clinical license both in 2016. And so I'm in private practice now and almost done with, I'm Adlerian I'm just Adlerian.
Okay.
That's what yes.
Oh, I don't know that modality. Like, say more.
Oh my gosh.
Mate, you do not know what you have just done.
Excellent.
Erika and I have known each other for a little while. I mentioned the writing group I was a member of earlier. Erika is also a member of said writing group. And sorry, Erika, there were some technical issues at the beginning of this stream that we have never once experienced with IWF. And it's like, of course, there would be issues now. But yeah, so Brian, having known Erika a little while, the second you asked that question, I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm not needed here anymore. Bye.
So, oh goodness, now I feel like I'm on the spot. Alfred Adler was about the same time. So like Freud and Jung and Adler were all like friends, right? And then they all kind of did their own thing. And Terry Cotman kind of invented Adlerian play therapy when she was at UNT, which is like, you know, child-centered mecca of Gary Landreth, the world. Like that's where she got her her play therapy training, and she wasn't she found she wasn't being her own unique self, like her own unique self in the playroom. And so she developed Adlerian play therapy. And you know, there's a lot to it. But basically we develop words. It's like, it's a Sunday and words are not my friend today, apparently.
They're never my friends. It doesn't matter what day it is.
Like a relationship, like a relationship with the child. And so like a co-power. So like we're both in charge. And like you know, sometimes, I mean, and it can change within the session. So like I'll choose an activity and then the kid will choose an activity, and I can't think of what there is a term for that, and it is eluding me, and it will come to me later. But then there's a lot of terms and jargon that come with Adlerian play therapy, like with Dungeons and Dragons, like lots of jargon and lots of words and terms, and like we have our own language, and there's a lot to it. But basically we change is not solely the child's responsibility. So like we collaborate a lot with teachers and parents, and we work very closely with parents to facilitate change, because otherwise we don't believe that it can be done. And we are more on the I don't necessarily like the word directive, but more on the directive end of the spectrum, as opposed to non-directive in session, where we just kind of let the kid
okay, gotcha. Yeah.
kind of do. So child-centered is a very non-directive approach. And we can be non-directive, but we're fairly directive.
Okay.
That is not doing it justice at all.
Okay. Yeah.
But
it's interesting because one of the things you mentioned, because like you know, like is that it's working with like the teachers and the parents and things like that. And one of the modality that I use is parent-child interaction therapy. And for those who don't know that modality, it's based in attachment therapy, attachment theory, which is the idea that which is the idea that like how we interact with other people is dependent upon how we interact with our parents. And so there's different like attachment styles and strategies that kids tend to develop. And then like when they become adults, they're still using those same strategies that got them to adulthood with friends, family, coworkers, you know, loved ones. And, you know, and so what you want to do, so the idea is in this situation is you create a secure attachment with the, you know, with the primary caregivers. And it is a little more, you know, like non-directed, like the children, you know, like the kids kind of, you know, take you wherever they want to go. You know, but still like, you know, when I'm doing like my tabletop therapy games and things like that, I'm letting them decide like, well, what kind of adventure do we want to have? Like, where are we going to go? Like, what do we need to do to accomplish, okay, we want to slay a dragon. Okay, great. You know, like, what do we need to do that? And a lot of times I found that like, just by giving them the chance to just tell that story, they're bringing in like naturally all these different issues that they're struggling with in their life. And then by having their caregiver there to be like, you know, like the good friend essentially to this character that they're playing, like it's helping them develop that kind of secure attachment with their caregiver. But it's interesting to see that like kind of like even like even within like Adlerian, it's this kind of like connection with the like recognizing that you're not just going to go in and like fix the kid, right? Because that's not the issue. It's it's like their whole community that has to be brought in and help them get where they need to be.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, following on from that, I got a fantastic question from one of my regular viewers over on my channel, David Jennings. David, thank you so much for all your support. Next time you're in Reading, I'll buy you a pint because seriously, mate, I love you. Just keep coming. But he put up a question actually ahead of this stream. It would be interesting to hear what you see in your experience as the pros and cons of RPG therapy versus more traditional talking therapies. And obviously, we've just spent a little while talking about how we found RPGs as interventions and how some of our backgrounds in other areas have, brought us to where we are. But why RPG therapy as opposed to just straight Adlerian, just straight parent-child interactive? What's the big selling point? Ooh, and I'm just gonna move because already my back's seizing up. I'm not old.
You want to go first, Erika, or do you want me to?
Okay, so one thing I learned at one of the last like in-person Adlerian like week-long trainings I went to was that I am a slow processor, and it is not that I am slow. It is like I need a second to like get all the information in my brain. So you go while I like percolate that and listen to you.
Yeah. So why did I go with that? Because like you can just go in, with like parent-child interaction therapy and just like have toys and all the different things there. But the idea is, again, it's non-directive. And so, you present them with a bunch of different options and just see what they grab onto. And so one of the options I like to throw in there is tabletop RPGs, because again, I have found that it helps them process their world symbolically. And I think too, you even kind of see this like when you look at movies or something like that. You look at something like the movie Terminator 2, right? Like this is this very fantastical story about like warriors from the future that are cybernetic coming back in time to kill Sarah Connor and John Connor in order to avoid them being able to stop their future conquest of the world. But there's so much that's going on in that story that are things about like fear of AI, fear of technology, fear of nuclear holocaust, worried about like there's all of those are things that were really humming in the air around that period in time. And it's kind of a similar thing when you look at like the Star Trek, the motion picture that was it J.J. Abrams was the director. It's kind of a similar thing where like destruction of Vulcan, that was 9/11. It was basically part of like the Federation that like nobody thought was ever going to get destroyed was gone. And now all of a sudden we're having to work through the backlash of that, right? And the kids do the exact same thing. Like if they have an abusive, manipulative parent, that parent is going to show up in the story that we're putting together. There's going to be some like maybe like a tyrant king, who has this ability to control all of the dragons in the world or something like that. And that kind of tells you something about how they're seeing like the people in their lives and what they're having to try and overcome. And so that was one of the big reasons that I really wanted to bring it in, was because it gives them that chance to process. And I've even seen kids where they haven't played the game at all, but they pretend play it out, the story that we're going to run, and like rolling around on the floor and just like going like absolutely crazy and don't know exactly what's happening, but like then the very next session, like mom and dad are saying like, yeah, the issues are gone. And so that's what I've seen has been such a powerful tool to have this in the toolbox, is that they're processing their issues metaphorically very much the same way that we do through like movies and literature. So
Side note, you mentioned Terminator. I haven't got it yet, and now that you've mentioned it, of course, I'm going to go straight down to Eclectic Games, hashtag Eclectic Games, best game store in the world.
I haven't played it. Oh, it has an RPG. I guess it should shock me, but yeah,
RPG. There is a Terminator RPG.
I will have to look into that myself.
There's also a Blade Runner RPG. I don't have that one because I'm trying to be good, but that's by Free League, and if it's by Free League, it's amazing. They've also done an Alien RPG, so Free League, so Blade Runner, Alien, but yes, there is indeed a Terminator RPG. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are a race that exists through stories. Stories have kept us as a species alive for thousands upon thousands of years, and this is why we read stories to our kids. This is where fairy tales come from. Don't speak to men who look like wolves and go around eating your grandparents. We learn through stories. We tell each other stories every day when we come home from work. We're telling stories right now because we're talking about, I had this client that did X. And our bodies process information through the medium of stories. And so bringing fiction into the therapeutic environment, with or without dice, is, in my opinion, always, you're always onto a winner. But then when you add the rules of a role-playing game, even if it's, very bog standard, you just do rock, paper, scissors, and whoever wins gets to decide what happens next. You're adding a bit of excitement, a bit of tension, a bit of, okay, yeah, this is going to be cool. I'm going to go and kill a dragon. 1, 2. Oh no, okay. No, the dragon hits me back. And for a start, it's fun. The number of kids I've had who, their parents say, oh, they really weren't looking forward to today, with their first session. A bit nervous about me. And then it's like, oh, can I come back next week? Of course you can come back next week. We haven't killed all of them yet. There's still 2 more dragons in the next room. Come on. And as soon as you get that, as soon as you manage to help them feel just at peace and safe in the environment, you're already one step further than you were before. But then, as you say, just the character work, that real life always finds its way into a character and the story that you're telling. And how could it not, right? We only have our own lived experiences to go off. Even if we're trying to imagine something completely outlandish, we still do so via our own frame of reference. And so therefore, if we as therapists, keep a solid eye out for these things, we'll be able to pick up what's going on for the clients. As you say, if there's this big demonic king who's just controlling and mean to everybody, even if right away it isn't apparent that it's that it's this abusive individual who is being channeled into them, we can immediately start asking questions. Well, how does the character feel about this big king? How would you feel about this king? Does the king remind you of anybody? That kind of thing. Just drip feeding the information into the therapeutic process rather than having them tackle. And this is especially true for younger clients, but it works all the way across all age ranges in my experience. Just, you can tackle the information, you can tackle the problem without necessarily having to tackle the problem. You can discuss the issues without re-traumatizing the individual. And that, to me, is it's gold dust. I've said it before on my channel, and I think I've said it to you before, Brian, as well. You know, the satanic panic has a lot to answer for. If we should, what we're doing now should be normal by now. You know, this should be a normalized intervention, whereas, you know, we're still the outliers.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, sorry, I was about to stop. I was about to go off on a rant, then I managed to stop me. Did you see me stop? I managed to stop myself. Erika, how about yourself?
We're so proud.
Oh, I should have written that down because you said something and I wanted to add on to that because it was brilliant. And so
I think it was where I saw it was when he says we don't want to re-traumatize them, and then I saw like the lights go off in your head.
Yeah, so that was it. Where was that was it. But also being being able to get at things in a way that it would potentially take and I don't know that I could even put like a time frame on it in quote unquote normal therapy, because you're doing it in such a different way. You're approaching the information and presenting the information in such a different way that it's not just like in your face. It's this character is saying it to your character, and it's not me, the authority type figure, saying it to you, the client. And it can be so like, I had one of those sessions and it was so incredible. And it wasn't all of it wasn't planned, but there were pieces of it that was planned. And then it just kind of snowballed and ended up being a whole session of my client is playing, asked me if they could play a homebrewed Paladin Oath. And I was like, sure. It wasn't overpowered. And it was something that I was like, go for it. I'm pretty, as a therapist DM, I am pretty permissive because
I just want to know what the oath was.
The Oath of Ares.
The God of War?
The God of War.
Interesting.
I love that so much.
And it has been very, very cool. And so a series of events happened, and my client's character came split the party, number one, and which tells you, I mean, wanted to try and handle things by himself, which tells you a lot about this kid. And then came across a sea hag, which was already planned. And hags are terrifying. Like, statistic wise, they're not terrifying.
Excuse me, do not talk about my mother like that, thank you.
I'm so sorry. Dungeons and Dragons hags. I will be more specific. Like, statistic wise, they are not terrifying, but when you look at their abilities, holy moly. And so failed the saving throw for being frightened. And then once you're frightened, with the sea hag specifically, they have a death glare that can drop you to 0.
Nice.
And I may have fudged the saving throw on that because I had this idea that this interaction between Ares and this character, my client's character, needed to happen. And so I made it happen. And it was all about, like, you have to have people in your life. You can't do this on your own. you can't be on your own all of the time. You have to rely on people, and you have people around you that you can rely on. And it was so important for him to hear at that point in time in his life with what was going on. But I don't know that he would have been able to hear it in any other way.
And that's such an important part, because I think about like when you look at myth, you know, if you're looking at it like from like Joseph Campbell, like in the hero's journey, like there's an element of it that is always there, which is the supernatural aid. There's always somebody there that's that's helping the main character, whether it's like Dorothy and the Scarecrow and, you know, Wizard and all of those characters, or you're looking at like the Lone Ranger has Tonto, or you look at Don Quixote has Sancho. Like there's always somebody there that's helping the main character. And you're right that like that is such an important part of it. And it is something like, as you were talking, it kind of made me think about like by running, you know, like kids through these games, we're teaching them that's part of what, you know, that's part of how we interact as a society, is that we are a society. And then when we go it alone, yeah, we are in danger, and it might feel safe, but there you don't have anything to fall back on when things go bad, when things go awry.
What is the name of? Because there is a fantastic Greek D&D expansion. Is it Arcadia? Is that?
Oh, what is that called? I have it over here somewhere. There's Mythic Odysseys of Theros from Dungeons and Dragons.
I'm sure there's one that's Arcadia, because it's a bit more. I'll find it. But yeah, because there is the Mythic one, but there are. Oh yeah, here we go. Mythic Odysseys of Theros, and yes, Arcadia, Arkadia, and just. I'm a huge fan of Arcadia just for the art. I've never actually played it, but I'm a huge Greek myth monkey. I love Greek myths. And the art in Arcadia is, I mean, the front, just the front cover alone. If I can just find the image.
It's beautiful. I just found it on Drive-Thru RPG. I'm looking at it now.
Where is it? Arcadia.
It's like, how many of these am I going to be writing down by the end of the day?
That to me is everything I want from a Greek.
That is awesome.
And the rest of the art on the inside is just the same. It's amazing.
But to answer your question, your original question,
there was a question.
There was, like, how did we get into using this? That was just to add on to the brilliant statement that you made, Dan.
Did I say something? I don't know.
You did. So I got into using.
Sorry, if I can just cut you off, Erika. We are now being joined by our latest member, Dani. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Dani. Thank you so much. How are you feeling?
I'm doing a lot better, thank you.
Doing a lot better. If you don't mind me broadcasting it to the internet, Dani had COVID a couple of days ago, and I spent the past couple of days saying, look, you really don't have to turn up, you know, because there's this thing called self-care that we need to consider here. But you've been an absolute darling about turning up, so thank you so much and plus it's early on a Sunday. I mean, it's all right for me because it's nearly 6 p.m. Yeah, I'm fine. I've already had my lie-in and my afternoon nap, but you're getting up early to be here when you're ill, so thank you.
Happy to be here, thank you.
Well, I'm glad you're feeling better. That does not sound. I have, knock on all of the wood. Still have not. We have not. My family has not had the COVID yet.
So, spoiler alert to anybody else: if you never see Erika again, it's because she just said that.
No, I've said that a few times, and I have always knocked on all the wood around me because I don't know that my lungs would handle it. I have really, really bad asthma. So we are very, very careful.
So, Dani, we're just talking about A, how do we get into it? B, using RPGs. I mean, I know you haven't used RPGs much with clients, but you work primarily / entirely with kids, don't you? And you also are a massive nerd, so thank you for joining us. And yeah, Erika is just walking us through the Oath of Aries for a client, and I'm just sitting here going, I want to play this game. I want it. I need it. I need a proper rule set here. And don't stop at Aries, because obviously you've got Aphrodite, Zeus, obviously. I mean, you've got all of the characters from Xena Warrior Princess.
Well, I mean, that's a whole other stream. Like the campaign that I'm running, he just wanted to play a Paladin Oath of Aries. Like it's not even a Greek. It's not a Greek anything game.
Oh, it's just
yeah.
Well, Aries is cool. He's got a bad temper. The only cooler Greek god is Hades, as personified by James Wood in Hercules.
Yes.
Just, you know.
And it was fun because I got to make a Shrinky Dink out of a Shrinky Dink Aries, so I could put him on the board.
Oh, Shrinky Dink, is that paper that you put in the microwave and shrinks?
I don't think I.
Well, whilst Erika,
I don't have any here. No, I was looking to see if I had any here, but I don't. So I got into using RPG. Well, and I only use D&D. So my brain can really only handle one system. I've tried to delve into other systems a little bit, and I just like it doesn't work very well. I mean, I might be able to do other D20 systems, but there's too much other stuff going on, and I just can't. And so it actually came from me realizing after a D&D session that I was playing in that I had made like
some feedback.
It sounds like a fan, maybe.
Is it a fan?
I don't know.
Okay,
Here, I'm going to mute myself and tell me if it's me. Oh, I think it's.
Oh, it might be you, Dani. Sorry.
Dani's muted, it looks like.
Yeah, as soon as I muted, I think it stopped. I don't hear it, so it might be.
Okay, no worries. Well, we'll keep an eye out just as long as we know what it is.
But I am non-confrontational as a human, and in a session we were playing, I needed to be confrontational, and so in the 2 weeks between sessions, I played over scenario after scenario after scenario of how this interaction could go. And then after this session, like the interaction happened and it was fine. And I didn't have a meltdown, which I was very proud of myself for, but my heart was beating so fast the whole time. And afterwards I was shaking, so much so that I don't know that I took a ton of notes that time. And Dan knows this, like I was our group's note taker. Like my binder is that thick from our 5.5-year game. But it, on our way home, I told my husband, I was like, I did it. Like I did that. And so it just got to me thinking, I'm like, there has to be a way I can use this in therapy. If this can help me, and I'm a, fairly well-adjusted human, this has to be able to help.
Are you sure? I've met you. Are you sure?
I mean, ish.
But I had kind of a similar experience myself, which is I kind of forgot to mention that was also why I decided to get into use tabletop RPGs on for therapy, was that like And I think I've told Daniel this story, was that I used to be a really, really sore loser when it came to games. Like, and so like, my character would roll a 1 or something. I'd just be like,
Flip the
and
table.
yeah. Maybe not quite that bad, but nevertheless, I would be really grumpy and miserable, and and it was upsetting to my friends. It was upsetting to me. I didn't like being that way. But then I had actually just discovered Buddhism. And what I decided was, you know what? My next character is going to be an elven monk who, it doesn't matter what happens to him, he is going to find something about it that is like, that he sees everything in life as a lesson. And he's going to find the lesson in everything. So if he gets knocked unconscious or gets killed or, misses, this one enemy or whatever, he's going to find a way to look at that and be like, this is a thing to learn from. And after playing that character, I only played him for like 2 months. Like, it just was gone. Like that sore loser kind of, like quality that I was struggling with for so long was just gone. And that's kind of where I, like I mentioned, I use kind of like that personal hero technique with my like teens and young adults and older clients is that, yeah, what you do is you create that character who doesn't have the problems that you have. And then you play that character. And, so like if you're struggling with like social anxiety, you play a character who's confident and charismatic and doesn't have that issue. And they may have other issues that you don't struggle with. But by being able to be in that body and being, and noticing what it feels like to be that character, you can start to develop those traits that maybe have been challenging. Because like you were saying, it's like it was challenging for you to be confrontational, and then by playing another character who was like, you started to develop that in yourself.
Well, and it was even more hard because we play with a friend group, and the friend that that my character was confronting was someone who takes the bleed in and bleed out to an extreme almost. And it wasn't Alana talking to the other character. It was Erika confronting the friend in her eyes. And so, I had to also be very conscious of that going into and so it just added another layer. But at the,
And I'm just keen to bring Dani in now because I'm conscious we haven't actually asked her any questions since she joined.
But yeah, it's so cool how much it can help.
Yes. And so, yeah, Dani, how's your experience with RPGs? Tell us how you got into tell us how you ended up in this conversation from birth to, well, COVID.
Yeah, I don't know. I developed an interest in RPGs kind of later in life. Maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I started watching Dimension 20.
Sorry. You started you started RPGs later in life, like 3 years ago. How old are you? You do not qualify for anything to have started later in life.
Later in my life. I didn't I haven't been playing since I was a teenager. Which is so funny because I read Lord of the Rings in 6th grade, so why didn't I? But I started watching Dimension 20, and I was instantly drawn in by the character development that I saw throughout that show, and also the kind of like inclusivity. I don't think that I'd seen that on traditional television, and I was hooked. And I just coincidentally around that same time started dating a DM who's now my fiance, and he started running a game for us, and that game has been like 3 years running. And my character started out as kind of like this social justice-y warrior, like 20-year-old, like who I wanted to be when I was 20 and I didn't have the courage to be. And now I get the chance to kind of like play that out and like, okay, how would that have developed as she got older? Like, would she have stayed that like headstrong? Would she still, hate the paladin on, XYZ reasons because he's a little bit of a misogynist? Or would she start to see his other qualities and start to bring that in and develop a more rounded view of people and thereby become a more rounded person herself? And watching my character develop almost like without me realizing what's happening has been incredible. Because some of the choices my fiance will ask me afterwards, it's like, hey, why did Kat do that? I'm like, that's a really good question. Let me think on it. And I don't know, she's like become this other, like this whole other person outside of me. And bringing it into the session started kind of out of necessity. Like I think I told you, Daniel, that my first client that I used it with had a lot of social anxiety around school. And there was no way for me to really, like, I couldn't go with them into school and help them try to sort out these social situations, but I could bring the school to them.
Not without a restraining order, anyway.
I mean, they would have loved it, but I'm like, I'm sorry, I have other clients today. So yeah, I brought the school to them. I borrowed Brennan's idea of an adventuring academy and borrowed
with
characters.
Those little those sweet corn monsters that appeared in the cafeteria.
The corn cuties.
Yeah, is that what I can't remember what they're called. Yeah, well, yeah.
And I borrowed some of the characters from like the PCs from my main campaign and brought those in. So it was all very kind of like haphazard and just like, I'm going to see if this works because nothing else was really working for this client. Mm-hmm. And the transformation that I saw in them over 6 to 9 months that I was working with them was incredible.
Yeah. And oh God, that the old cliche. And what was it like for you watching that?
It was a little bit like, oh gosh, I don't know how to explain it. It was unexpected. I didn't really expect it to work.
Yeah. And that's the thing. When you go in there, not real, you just think, right, I'm gonna. Brian said the same thing. It's like you do it out of necessity, right? Nothing else is working. We've got to try this. Oh my God, that not only did that work, that worked hard. And then how long ago was that? If you don't mind me asking, Dani?
That was a year and a half ago, something like that.
And there's been no looking back since.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, not every client that I work with is interested in RPGs, unfortunately. Some of them, I have a lot of adolescents who are just too cool for it right now. But even them, I can kind of be like, well, if you could create, like, if you could make yourself into anything, what would you be? And then that can kind of develop a conversation of like you two were talking about just now, like, how is that different from you? How is that the same as you? And then that can sort of become this, it's like resourcing.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's really great is when your character shows you things about yourself that you didn't know about yourself.
None of us here are going, no, never, no, that never happened to me ever. I can just see us all squirming in our seats.
Well, it's actually fun because, like, I'm obviously non-binary. Maybe it's not obvious, but yes. But it's kind of funny because, like, some of the things that Dani was saying and some of the things that you just mentioned there, Erika, kind of reminded me of like one of my first like role-playing experiences was with a like an AOL character that I had created named Dove Arrow, and this was back, like, I'm somewhat ashamed to admit it now, but this was back in the days when I was a Republican. But I had friends of mine that were were very feminist, and they would kind of talk about like issues, and I was like, this isn't a problem anymore. And so to prove to myself that that was the case, I created Dove Arrow to be like a female character that would interact. And boy, did I learn how wrong I was. Like by playing her, just like exposed to a lot of the issues that like they were talking about, and just being like, and was just really shocked, and it really changed my like political views and worldview and social views, and and then later on, like, as I was kind of starting to like explore my own gender identity, like kind of realizing like there's a reason that I played this character for as long as I did, because I played her for years in like the old AOL RPG chats, and it was it was because that was me kind of learning and exploring like my own gender identity, and realizing like I didn't feel fully male, and so so it's power, like it's surprising like how like that was decades ago. And and it did come up.
We have somebody who's just said hello on YouTube. So hi there, Mohammed. Thank you for joining us. I think we've reached the stage now where we're just starting to geek out over our own individual experiences here. So you've perked up. You've turned up at a fantastic time. So thanks for joining us. Brian's so Erica's spoken to us about one of her kind of formative experiences with RPGs and their therapeutic potential, and Brian's just telling us a bit about how not only has
like dodgy youth,
the dodgiest, but sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just thought but Mohammed, if you have any questions, please by all means put them in the chat. We'll try and answer, and anybody else who turns up, because I'm not sure how Facebook works yet. So if there are people on Facebook watching and StreamYard isn't telling us you're watching, hi, please ask some questions and we'll answer them. Back to you, Ryan. Sorry.
But so that was one of my early experiences, and and then I kind of as I realized as I was going back through it and kind of reflecting back, I was like, I played a lot of female characters, and it hadn't really dawned on me at the time that was what was going on. But I have seen I've seen clients who've struggled with with gender identity issues be able to explore that with their characters and kind of figure out what their where they fit in the world, and how and it's been really fascinating to watch how what races what race they'll choose to kind of represent that, and how they like how they role play that character as a result. It's been really it's been neat to see even that aspect of it in therapy.
Yes, very much.
And my own life.
Oh, and we're joined by another TX, Sam. Hello, thank you for joining us. Join the Geek Out. Please do ask us any questions that come up. But yes, also, it's not just, I mean, obviously there is a huge part of, because we're trained in this, we're trained to be self-reflective and ask ourselves why we do things as we do them. And I've noticed quite recently how intelligence is always my dump stat. It's like, because I spend all day thinking. I don't want to play characters who are thinking. I want to play characters who hit things. and they are very good at that. And I like stupidity and chaos. I'm currently playing in one of the games I'm playing a wild magic barbarian, because I never know what's going to happen when she charges into combat. And when we just leveled up, I took a level in wild magic sorcerer, and we've decided that every time she charges in, we're going to roll on the wild magic table. That way, A, I can hit things, and B, I could potentially turn myself into a potted plant.
That's fantastic.
That's what I want from games. And we're joined as well by Slime. I think what's happened. Hello, Slindo. Again, welcome. Please ask any questions. You're not wrong. I think we get it all timed at 6 because we started a bit earlier, so I think everybody's finally coming in now. So hi, welcome everybody. But yeah, I just love mentalness. It's just
Can
rolling.
we pick that person out?
Why? What's happening?
Some stuff going on in the chat that maybe isn't appropriate.
I don't
what
know
it's spelling out. Can we just pick?
Okay.
Yes, thank you. That's fantastic.
Okay, I never had to do that before. Don't know what's going on.
Right.
But yes, mental. I do enjoy mentalness.
Yeah, I like. I'm playing. I'm playing in 2 different campaigns right now, and then like I have. So I have a friend that I do trainings with, and he works primarily. He does groups, and I do one-on-one, and so he cannot wrap his mind around doing one-on-one therapy, like doing one-on-one RPGs, like playing D&D one-on-one. I think we're just getting some spammers right now.
Oh no, that's a shame.
What we're getting.
Keep talking, and I will.
Okay. Oh gosh, what was? Anyway, and so like I have some because I play with just one client at a time. I will always have a character, like I'm playing an NPC with them, because I never ever want them to go alone on a journey, like kind of the same, Brian, what you were kind of talking about. But with my the characters that I'm playing, I'm playing a dragonborn barbarian that's the totem warrior, and so she's really fun because I get to hit things really hard and like just go in and just like if I've had a really bad day at work and it's a D&D weekend, I will email or I'll text our DM. However, I've gotten really good at telling him, okay, you do not need to TPK us, but I need to kill some things this weekend. Because sometimes he will put us up against like lots and lots and lots of really like just a lot of powerful characters. But the other character I'm playing is a Kalashtar cleric druid. And I'm not exactly
what's a Kalashtar? Sorry, I don't even know
a
what
Kalashtar. It's a species. Well, I mean, it's kind of a human race.
It's from Eberron, right?
Yeah, from Eberron. So they are descendant of Quarry. So they don't dream, and they can have a telepathic link with people. But otherwise, they're not so different from human, except for that they don't dream.
Yeah.
Okay. No. So I just interrupted because I'd never heard that word before. So
and I'm really
I love that race from Eberron.
I'm really still trying to figure out why, like, what I need to get out of her, like why I created her. Because she's so far from like who I am as a person. Like I don't know. I'm still trying to figure her out, and I've been playing her for 2 years, and I don't know what I need to get from her. So
yeah.
Sorry, Dani, you look like you were going to say something.
No, that's just my face. I get that a lot. No, you guys had me thinking about recently our main campaign is on hold, so we've been doing a lot of one-shots. So I've gotten the opportunity to create characters that I wouldn't necessarily normally play. And I've been going for these kind of like more like, it sounds bad in the context of what we're talking about, but more like devious, kind of sneaky, underhanded characters.
Yeah.
And I'm like, gosh, I wonder why I'm doing that. So that may have been my face.
Oh, okay.
Like kind of like, what do I need to get out of these characters?
Bryce has got a fantastic question. Hello, Bryce. What's your opinion on playing a child? Sorry.
Okay, so Dani, I want just because if I don't answer that, I will lose it. And
we will get to you, Bryce, but you're talking to a bunch of old people here who have no memory whatsoever. So we best we'll answer this question and then we'll come back to yours.
Well, just ADHD. So ADHD.
Age.
And age. I mean, I'm right behind you. So don't. It's like I have to like
answer the question before you forget. Come on.
I think it's fun to play characters that we like, especially the devious parts, because in real life, like I don't get to do that. Which is why, like, when I go to Comic-Con, I love to cosplay as Harley Quinn. And my Harley Quinn wall used to be behind me. I have a few things. I moved her over here so that my daughter could help or have part of my home office. But I love her because she's like psychotic, and like that's not me. And so, but it's fun to let loose and maybe pretend to be psychotic for one day out of the year. And so if I can maybe play a devious, cunning, sneaky character, I don't know.
Yeah, and I've kind of experienced similar things, and I've seen that even like with clients where it's like you need to be able to play that mischievous or cruel character for a while, possibly because there's a part of you that's like being, like kind of like if we're talking about like kind of like, like the subconscious, there's a part of that maybe that's suppressed in your life. And it's not safe to be able to do that. And I was even thinking about like Dan's character that does the, that has the wild magic, where it's kind of like, maybe that's not a part of you that shows up in your own life, and not acknowledging that and not being able to engage with that, it can cause other issues. Like one of the things that like we know as therapists is that when people have affairs, a lot of times that other person that they have the affair with is representing something that's missing in the relationship or missing in their own self. And so they look at that as kind of like something that they want to glom onto, and they do so through like a romantic, like through a romantic affair that maybe shouldn't have been. And so when you don't play that, when you're not engaging in that, and I've played my own characters, the one that keeps coming to my mind is this half-orc cleric named Gror that I used to play that just was like, like he was just like, he would just, whenever anything would enrage him, like he would just go in like, guns blazing kind of thing to try and like handle things, because that's not how I usually am. I tend to kind of like tiptoe around the issue where he's just like, like beating on the castle doors, like, let him see it.
I'm gonna kill somebody, and I will do it tomorrow if I can't do it today.
And yeah, because you have, like it gives you a chance to sort of process that part of yourself, in a way that maybe, that you can then incorporate into your life in a healthy way. But yeah, getting back to Bryce's question.
Yeah, playing a child, because
playing a child PC.
Because obviously, Brian, you've used Hero Kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Hero Kids, the premise of that game is that basically you are kids.
Yeah.
Who
and
are
you've got things like Kids on Bikes and
and so they're basically adventurers, and who they're protecting the village because their parents are off being like being adventurers themselves somewhere, and so they're the ones that are left behind, kind of like protecting the village of I can't remember the name of it. I always use the German word of version of it, Virikant, because I have a nice map that shows the whole like the whole world. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of whatever it is that you're needing at that particular moment. And maybe for a lot of like a lot of times, if there's a part of you that like didn't, in attachment theory, a lot of times what we're working with is younger parts who didn't get, something traumatic happened to them, or to you when you were like 8, 4, 3, whatever it was, right? And being able to go back and maybe play that character in role play is a way to, process something that happened at that period of time, something that shouldn't have happened, or should have happened and didn't, and by being able to be that be that younger character, you may be processing something that happened at that age that you needed to kind of work through, and you can do that through your character.
Which is oddly enough pretty much exactly what Bryce themselves just said. Looking at how we as individuals tune into being a child in this part of the work. And I mean, Dani, you work predominantly with kids. How do their characters, they come in, do they play children, do they like to play adult characters? What's the children?
They typically play a character that's 3 to 4 years older than them. So I have like some of my younger clients will play 15, 16-year-olds. And then we go up to like 17. I think the oldest was like 22. They don't tend to go older than 22. I don't know if they can't like conceptualize what it would be like to be in your 30s.
That's probably grandparents' age. Ugh, it's not possible to be older than 22, surely.
Right. So no, like a lot of them aren't playing kids. They're playing like adolescents, but they're playing characters who are older than them. I haven't tried D&D with an adult yet. I don't work with a lot of adults, and the ones that I do work with don't seem overly interested in alternative therapeutic modalities. But I would be interested to see that, if like what that would be like to play, like we're going to play 10-year-old you, like a version of 10-year-old you, and see what happens, or something like that. So that's an interesting thought.
I hadn't even thought of it that way. That's an interesting way of managing it.
Because obviously, I mean, Gestalt is famous for just straight up role play, and therapeutic role play has been a part of therapy since back in Freud's time. But yeah, to actually say, well, let's introduce 10-year-old you to the Forgotten Realms. I mean, yeah. Well, yeah. Tell us more. What's like kick people out?
Well, I know one of the things that I do in like with older clients, I don't do a lot of tabletop role play or anything like that with older adults, because kind of a similar reason. They're like they want traditional talk therapy. But one thing that I do use is something called the comprehensive resource model, which uses like a lot of like visual meditations, and kind of it's based in attachment theory. And one of the things you do is, after you've kind of processed and released whatever the distress is, what you do is you go back and you find like, when was the youngest, asking the wisdom in your body, like how old was it when you first became familiar with that distress? And and so like, is it and they go back like 4 or 5, and then you bring in that younger part and you kind of care for that part, by showing them like the love and care and support that they didn't get at that moment, and then being able to allow them to tell their story and to say like, this is what happened, and this is what should have happened, and this is what didn't happen, and this is what I need right now, so that way they can kind of process that. But I could see how you could do some of that, because like I always kind of like the comment that I always make to my clients when they really don't, sometimes they don't respond to CRM very well, because it's a little bit it has sort of like a new agey feel to it. But what we'll do is we'll use it more like a narrative intervention. And so imagining that, like, you know, you have like the DeLorean and can go back in time, like what would you do for your younger self? But I could see being able to do that in like in a tabletop RPG where you're actually doing that and visualizing what it's like to be able to go back and, you know, like, you know, help that younger version of yourself become a better person and overcome the challenge that they experienced at that time. And knowing that it's, you know, it's all a role play game, but nevertheless, like somehow by just processing that in a like in kind of like a fantasy sort of way, like it rewrites your own history. It's really fascinating to watch how when clients really glom onto it, like how well it works. So
Yeah. And oh, sorry, let me just, where is it? Similar question to Bryce from I can do this all day. I can't think where that quote comes from. Yeah, age regression. I haven't necessarily worked with clients who have actually played kid characters, but a lot of middle-aged clients have gone back to around about the same age as Dani was mentioning, about, you know, late teens, early 20s. So whereas for the younger clients, they're imagining that's as old as you can get. Whereas for some of the older clients, it feels like that was when they made the decisions that led them to where they are now. And so it's not necessarily for them regression, but it's kind of, well, in the nicest possible way, what did I do wrong to get me here? And how can I, what decisions would I have made then if I knew what I know now? And yeah, and when I think you were saying yourself, Brian, earlier, it just every now and again, when you play as that character for a little while, all of a sudden you just become that character, and it's I love seeing it and I love experiencing it. Sorry, Ron, you.
Yeah, there was a comment that somebody was asking about like age regression and whether or not this was similar to that. And from what I understand, like age regression is a situation where people kind of are struggling, or kind of like they're sort of like role playing. They're like in their day-to-day life, like they're acting as somebody who's younger than themselves, which is a little different than like what CRM does, because CRM is basically helping you process the distress that a younger part had. And a lot of time, yeah, there are times when kind of like, from what I understand, like with age regression, it is a situation where they are really struggling with trauma that happened to them when they were young, and they're trying to kind of work through that. But I haven't really had a lot of clients I will say I haven't had any clients who've experienced that, but that's kind of my understanding is, you know, is that it's something that they're kind of doing to try and like, you know, like, you know, as sort of like a role play, you know, like in real life, as opposed to like tabletops, which is kind of what we're talking about here. So
Oh, that's interesting. See, I hadn't heard that. Apparently age regression is being trans age. I had not heard that.
I hadn't heard that either. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, that is. Well, I mean, if you have so Satin, if you have any more information on that, because that sounds fascinating. I mean, well, actually, on that topic, obviously, a great aspect of role play is you can be whoever you want. And I don't know how much it's come up for yourselves, but I've had several clients who've experimented with other genders, other sexualities, just had to go at figuring out who they want to be. And has anybody here had that kind of experience with their clients?
I have not in session though. I have a client who plays D&D elsewhere, and I don't want to say too much, but they are both kind of oh gosh, really trying to figure out their gender and their sexual identity. And character they were playing, like died, could not be resurrected, and then so created a new character and created a changeling. And so I was talking to them about this in session, and I said, how does that feel to be able to play, be able to change into whoever you really want to? And they had not thought about it until I asked that question, and you could see this light bulb like come up on their head, and just this huge smile on their face. And you know, for them being able to do that in the context they were able to do it was so powerful for them and so helpful. Like I'm glad that it was there for them to be able to do that.
Do you want to jump in, Dani?
Yeah, I have multiple clients who are discovering their gender identity, their sexuality, and the number of changelings that I have playing in my sessions is just it's not surprising. When the first one chose it, I'm like, you know, they're a trans kid, they're figuring out how to deal with their gender dysphoria and body dysmorphia, and they chose a changeling. I'm like, of course they did. And then the next one came in and they chose a changeling. I'm like, oh, this is a pattern. But it is really cool that they can be like, so I can be whatever I want on any day. Like I can just change the way I look from minute to minute. And it's good that they're having that healing like moment in session, because I can tell they're like, all right, this is empowering for me. But I'm still trying to figure out why they all play rogues. That one's a mystery. Changeling makes sense. Rogues, I'm like, why do I have so many changeling rogues?
I think
rogues can get away with anything they want.
Well, what I was thinking was because if you really look at like the mythological archetypes, you know, that are gender changing, they tend to be rogues. You know, so like you think about Loki, who often changes, you know, changes gender. When you look at somebody like Coyote from a lot of Native American mythos, often changes gender. Mystique, yeah. And so yeah, a lot of those kind of mischievous rogue-like characters have like, you know, are gender fluid. So I kind of think that might be part of what's going on there, like kind of like we're going Jungian a little bit.
Well, and Satin mentioned, I know a 55 natural age trans woman who presents as 15, and yeah, that feels very similar. Just learning that you can be whoever you want to be. I mean, personally, I've never come across that. That's I'm fascinated.
One of the things that I have heard, you know, like just kind of like sort of diverting topics a little bit, but my understanding is that when people like come out at older age, you know, like at an older age, they tend to dress a little younger, and likely because they just didn't get a chance to go through that experience of being, you know, like dressing as their preferred identity. And so so they dress more like 15, 16, 17 for a while until they get to a place where they're like, okay, I've gone through that, I've been able to kind of experience and know what that's like as far as like, you know, wardrobe and, you know, and even just kind of living that way. And then they do, you know, they can and do you know, kind of transition their wardrobe to like something more like kind of what would be worn by somebody who's kind of more their age, and not always, but you know, like that's kind of that's my general understanding of it, just kind of from what I've, you know, read and experienced as I've been kind of going through this. So and so, but yeah, kind of coming back, I wanted to check in because we've used different modalities, and I kind of explained, sort of like PCIT and how like I bring like the role playing games into that, and that being able to have like the parent has the as the friend or the companion that kind of goes along with them to to help them to build that like secure attachment. Like, how do you use like tabletop RPGs within the Adlerian modality or any other, are the ones that I don't know what Dan uses or Dani uses primarily, but I'd love to hear like how you're using using tabletop RPGs within your preferred modality.
So, well, I've got the easy way out. I'm an integrative therapist, so I do all the things and go, do you know what? Let's just do this today. So, I do psychodynamic. I'm person-centered. I love my attachment theory. I've gushed over that with you, Brian, in our own private chats, and I've recently actually for my own channel, done some videos about how the therapeutic relationship manifests in RPG therapy, and I do a lot of work on that, and how the fictional frame kind of adds an element of just interpersonal relationships from kind of the out there into the therapeutic environment. So, because ordinarily the only relationship we can really work with clients is our relationship with them and theirs with us, and yet as soon as you introduce all these fictional characters, you've got their relationship with the characters, our relationship with the characters' relationship with other characters, and all of a sudden it becomes kind of it becomes systemic therapy almost, as well as as say person-centered psychodynamic, looking at the client's background through their own memories, but also through the characters' memories, and convoluted. No, yes. I make everything convoluted. I wrote a book about it. Come on, that's how convoluted I make it. How about yourself, Dani? We hadn't asked you that.
Yeah, I'm also pretty eclectic. I'm CBT trained because that's what my university did. But I find myself more attracted to systems theories, and I tend to work. I prefer to work within the family system. So while I work with children and adolescents, I'm often bringing in their parents. Sometimes I work with multiple siblings in the family at once. And being able to work on those relationships in real time. Like I have one client who right now my goal with her mom is just to get them interacting positively for 50 minutes a week. That's my goal. That's what I've got. And some weeks we succeed. Some weeks it's like, okay, well, we have some things to reflect on. But yeah, working within the system is, I think, where the most change can happen. Whether that's a system that, like the system of the client-therapist relationship, or more of a family system.
How like role-playing games can help with that?
Oh yeah. Sorry, I was using role-playing games with that mom and child. It's something that it turns out the mom was interested in, the child was interested in it. So they have these two characters, and it's really funny because the mom has this really negative view of her child, which is a big barrier to their positive relationship. And the child's character in the role-playing game is so kind, generous, caring. Like an NPC went down and her character like immediately went over and was like, how can I help him? What can I do? And I was able to, when the mom was telling me like how her child is mean, like the things parents say to me sometimes, she's telling me like, she's mean, she's selfish, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, actually that's interesting. Because in this game, her character did this. Like, do you remember that? If she was a mean person, I don't think she would have, she would have just kept going.
Yeah.
She would have gone after the treasure. She would have looted the body. Like, I've seen mean characters.
She would have murder hoboed her way through to the
Yeah.
end.
And she's not doing that. So being able to say, like, actually look at this like interior that she's showing you, this like place where she's able to be soft, where she's able to show that she cares. And the next step, hopefully, is to think about or to start to bring up, like, why do you think maybe she's not able to show that in her daily life? Like, why does she have to be so tough all the time?
I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, so I mean, and I don't think I could have gotten there without a role-playing game. Because in normal board games, she is kind of mean. Like she is really tough. So like this opportunity to show someone, like, look what you have inside of you, or look what your child has inside of them, is really beautiful.
Yeah. And yeah, and this is something that I think we've all said at various times, is the game just kind of brings out the inner workings of whoever you are. That comes out, because we've all got two sides. You've got the public side and the private side, and it doesn't matter how hard we try when we play RPGs or tell stories or anything like that. That inner side, that hidden side, just comes out, and it can be a surprise to us, and as much as it is to them when it gets pointed out. Yeah, that's lovely. I love that story, because I'm sure we all have experiences with parents.
Yeah.
Well, it's always the most challenging part of working with kids, is that you're a lot of times really the parent, the child who's the client tends to be like like what we call like the identified client, but the reality is they tend to be, from what I've seen, like in my own experiences, is they tend to be the healthiest one in the family. And the reason that they're the identified client is because it's kind of like that little dog in the in the burning house is like, this is fine, right? They're the ones that are like, no, this is not fine. Like, the house is on fire. Like, oh, you're just over dramatic. And so it's just kind of like, they're the ones who are seeing the family dynamics and seeing how negative they are and pointing them out, and everybody else is kind of annoyed by it. And so then they put them in therapy. And really what a lot of times we're working on is kind of like, how can this other person who's the parent be like a supportive figure in their life, and kind of and sort of in a roundabout way kind of doing therapy on the parent as opposed to the child.
Yes, and I can see us all here going, okay, how do I say what I want to say? Yeah. But
what about you, Erika? Like, how do role-playing games like show up in your preferred modality?
So RPGs actually pair beautifully with Adlerian play therapy. So Adlerian play therapy has 4 phases. Phase 1 is building the relationship with the client. And so throughout that, and it depends for me if a client comes to me wanting to play RPGs. So like word of mouth, they've heard like this is something that I do. And so we can build the relationship by character creating and doing session 0. And then I don't know if you guys had talked about this like before I came on, but I always do an RPG consent checklist that I have modified from, oh gosh, who is it? I pulled it up because Monty Cook. So Monty Cook Games created a RPG consent checklist, and I have modified it for play therapy because there are some things in it that the first time I gave it to a play therapy client's parents, they were like, what are you doing with my kid? And I said, hold on. Wait, let me explain. So I've modified it some, but so yeah, it just kind of depends. Otherwise, if I'll build the relationship with the client first and see if RPGs will be a good fit for them. If it is, then we'll, continue to create the character. And then phase 2 is like I'm learning about the client. So like as we're playing. And so I'm learning about them in things that they have, some of the things that they have like put into their character. So some of the things that they've made important, the way that they play their character. And so I'm going to say a bunch of Adlerian terms and they're not going to make sense, but like, these are the things that I am kind of assessing. So personality priorities and crucial C's and lifestyle convictions and private logic and temperament. And like, I'm assessing all of these things through gameplay. And then with all of that information, and with the phases, they're very fluid, which is, I love, because it's very not cookie cutter and I can flow back and forth into them. But so phase 3 is helping the client gain insight. And so that's when I can start having NPCs pop in, or having my player character pop in, or having Aries pop in and be like, hey, did you know this thing? Or kind of like putting a little earworm in really kind of interesting and cool ways for the client to be able to hear in a way, like just in a way that they're able to hear it with all the information that I've learned in phase 2. And then in phase 4, it's the client putting the things that they've learned into practice. And so for that, like, I'm more looking at what are they taking that they've learned and have maybe done in session with their character, or that they've learned about their character, and what are they applying or practicing. And some, it's very individualized. And so I'm really trying to like think of even a specific example as far as like a skill, because now everything's just leaving my head.
Yeah, you'll remember it in the moment we sign off. Don't worry.
Yeah, probably. But it Adlerian play therapy gives a lot of freedom to do the things that we need to do to get our clients where they need to go, with a very sound structure beneath it.
Okay.
Which
Yeah.
I love.
Yeah, I mean, you used the word directive earlier with Adlerian, and you were hesitant to use it, and I know why, because it's not being directive, but at the same time, Adlerian is a lot more upfront with what you're thinking. It's a bit more in your face. It's like, no, this is what it is.
Well, okay, so hold on, because now I have to look at it. I go to the National Play Therapy Conference every year, and what was his name? The O'Connor, Kevin O'Connor, who did founded or like created ecosystemic play therapy.
Oh,
He and Dee Ray, who is pretty big in the child-centered, they were the keynote speakers.
Huh.
And he said something, because Kevin O'Connor said something about he did not like the there it is. He did not like the divide of directive versus non-directive. Like, he felt like as a play therapy community that those two words really polarized us, and like not really, but like get in knockdown, drag out fights about what theories are best, what like is directive better, is non-directive better. And he's like, it is a continuum. It is a structure continuum. So that was the word I was trying to find earlier in my brain and I couldn't. So I just pulled it up on my phone because I have to take notes when brilliant people are talking, because I will never remember it. And so on a structure continuum, Adlerian play therapy is much more structured than, let's say, child-centered play therapy. Child-centered play therapy is less structured. Adlerian is more structured. And I love that the structure continuum idea.
Mhm.
How would you like structure a tabletop RPG to fit in that? Putting you on the spot.
Well, so okay, Terry Cotman. It depends.
Oh, that answer. You're gonna go with that. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Because what
How
I
would
do.
you structure it?
Yeah, because the way that I do it is like, it's, like, because I was writing every adventure, and it was exhausting, and I was like, I can't keep this up. And my supervisor at the time says, well, you're doing more work than the client, so have the client come up with the story. And I was like, it just totally was like, I could take that and ride that, like. And so yeah, so now I have them do the story, like what, like, and kind of I use sort of like the hero's journey as kind of a structure
Mhm.
to help me like figure out where we're, like, to, so that they can tell me like these are the plot points essentially. But yeah, like I just let them like go to town, like what's happening next, who are we going, what are we doing, where are we going, why are we doing it that way. But it sounds like you have more of a sense of like you're actually creating. Do you structure the story, or do you have them do it?
I have 2 different campaigns that I have come up with, and I ask them, which one do you want to do? Which one do you want to play? And then it has been my experience thus far that they will take it where they need to. And they will interact with the NPCs and the, like, my player character in a way that helps them work through their treatment goals. And then I can also put in, because there are some things that I will know coming in, and just like things that they will reveal, because like I do like a little check-in as I'm getting set up for session of like, how are things going, and parents talk to me and stuff. And so there are some things that I know and I'll kind of throw in, but I have found that like they will take it where they need to.
And can I just interrupt, because I've just realised it's nearly 10 to the hour, and we have got a hard cut-off point at 7 p.m. my time, and whatever time it is for you guys. So just 10-minute warning, guys. So,
well, what about you, Dani? Like, do you structure your campaigns? Do you have the clients come up with it? Like, how do you handle that?
But I can do this all day's question. What are the parameters you use?
I'm more client-centered in that not that Adlerian therapy is not client-centered, but I kind of go with what the client needs. Some clients do need more structure, because one of their things may be that they can't make a decision. So I do have to come up with things. I'm like, okay, this is where you're going. This is what you're doing. But I always start with the clients coming up with their backstory. And the backstory usually informs like, okay, this is where we're going. I'll ask them, do you want more modern? Do you want more classic? I I was starting to build a world around like the New York City subway systems at one point, because that was in the client's backstory. There were
I need
rooms.
more. Tell me what? Huh?
There were rooms made out of graffiti. No, and this was from the client's mind. This wasn't from me. I mean, just incredible creativity. Unfortunately,
all of our faces when you said that.
I know. Unfortunately, we had to close before we got to play. But I sent that client away with some dice. I'm like, you have so much creativity. Go find a game.
Yes.
Like, go find someone to play with. So like, and another client just like handed me 2 characters, like the 2 NPCs that I would play, because their backstory included 2 best friends that had like their whole personalities. So my clients really like bring me their ideas most of the time. There are some clients where I use like critical core because either they don't really have an idea of what they want to do. They have too many ideas and they can't narrow it down. So it really just depends.
Yeah. Oh, that is. Oh God, I want to play that game now. That is so good. There is. I don't know if anybody else has seen it. There's a YouTube channel called Dungeon Craft. It's hosted by a chap who calls himself Professor Dungeon Master. I love that channel. It's one of the him, Seth Skorkowski, Baron Dorop. Yeah, there are very few channels that I watch religiously, but Professor Dungeon Master is one of them, and he uses a phrase which I love, because we hear RPGs often being described as communal storytelling, which, yeah, fair enough. But Professor DM uses emergent storytelling, which I love that as a concept because it really does speak to that parasocial element, just the collective unconscious saying, yes, we're telling a story together. I don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen, but the story is just going to emerge on its way. And then you will find runes that are nothing but graffiti. You will find the Oath of Ares, just these things where you don't wake up in the day. Do you know what? I'm going to create a magic system based off spray paint, and yet it just comes. And and that moment where you hear something for the first time, and everybody's face just goes.
Well, and it was really because I had that reaction. Like I'm not a blank slate therapist. I couldn't be if I wanted to. When that client brought that up, I was like, that is so cool. And my excitement excited him because he was feeling this like uncertainty and this hesitancy. And then as soon as I was like, this is awesome, he got more and more into it and more stuff started to come up. So like, I think that us having that excitement, especially if we work with kids, having that excitement for their creativity and their ideas, that's therapeutic right there.
100%. I mean, that might well be the first time he experienced somebody giving him that. So, do you know what? That's cool. You've got an imagination, kid. Use it. Because we know what schools are like when it comes to creativity. They say they encourage it, but actually, if you don't write a certain thing a certain way, you're going to get the red pen. You're going to get the frowny face rather than the smiley face.
The main campaign that I run, it's actually one I started running for a couple of my friends, and then life just got too much and I could not keep up running it for my friends. And so it's kind of on hold right now, but it's in a land where every single person has been cursed. And so they are D&D monsters, which is, I love it for therapy purposes, because to free the person who is cursed, you have to like battle the monsters. So you still get like the combat aspect, which is fun, but you don't kill anyone, because when they drop to 0, they revert to who they were, and they are all like fictional characters. So
Oh my god, that is some Sailor Moon stuff right there. I am here for it.
So like Fezzik and Vincini and Inigo Montoya are the first 3 characters that you free from The Princess Bride.
I love this idea.
So then, like, I've asked my clients, I'm like, okay, so like once they kind of see what the deal is, I'm like, who do you want to rescue? Who do you want to see? Who would you potentially like to see show up? So like there's been book characters, and then this was the most, like, I thought this was brilliant. I had were rabbits turned into the Ninja Turtles. The rabbit in the hair.
There is actually a stop motion program over here from years ago called Wallace and Gromit, and one of their films was Wallace and Gromit: Curse of the Were Rabbit. It was,
but it's just like so it's like that's what I love. It's just fun, and then I get to I had one client who said 8-bit Mario and Luigi. I was like, so 8-bit Mario and Luigi showed up as like they got freed. And they were like Minotaur, Skeleton, and Ogre Zombie. That was what their cursed characters were. And then they showed up as like teeny tiny little 8-bit. But to see like the clients' faces when their characters show up, like when their favorite fictional character, that's been really fun for me.
And on that note, I've just seen the time, so I think it's probably best if we start to wind down, because family's got a family.
Yeah. But thank you. First of all, I just want to say thank you to everyone who participated in this, and Daniel and Erika and Dani. This has been really fun to be able to just kind of see like what other people are doing with tabletop RPGs and how they're using it within their own modalities. And thank you very much for joining on this fun journey.
We need to get together and play.
Mm-hmm. So, that would be a lot of fun.
What are you guys doing next weekend?
Next weekend. Oh goodness, I'd have to look at my calendar, but
Dani, say it.
I'm going out of town for my birthday, as long as I don't still have COVID.
Fine, you go and have a life.
But I'll be back the next weekend.
Yeah. But
before we go though, people tell us where you can be found, or where you can be avoided, or whatever. Erika, tell us about yourself.
I am RPG Play Therapy on Twitch and YouTube, or Erika Walker Therapy at .com. ErikaWalkerTherapy.com. Yes, that is me.
And Dani, how about yourself?
Nowhere.
Well, apart from here,
and on the Facebook group.
And the Geek Therapy community, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And this has been a joint broadcast from RPG Therapist and Initiative Play Therapy. Brian, tell us more. About it.
So I have my own little YouTube channel. It's called Initiative Play Therapy. It's primarily for therapists. It's to kind of I put up a bunch of different games and things that I use in play therapy and ways you can use them within for different issues and how to apply it. So I'm not doing a very good job explaining it. The words are coming, but
also for anybody who's joined us a bit later, this video is going to be up on Initiative Play Therapy's YouTube channel this time tomorrow, just so that we can spread the love over 24 hours as opposed to just blitz the internet once and then disappear. And it was totally planned that way. We didn't make it up on the fly.
But yes, thank you very much for everybody who joined. And
Daniel, where can we find you?
Well, you can find me here on YouTube at the RPG Therapist, online at Monomyth Counseling, you can buy an extremely cheap book, which is everything you want about role-playing games and psychotherapy. A practitioner's guide, which has got stuff on Adlerian, integrative and attachment, but not parent-child, which I am very, very sorry about. That'll be in the rewrite. But also, you will find me and Erica on the International Writers Fellowship YouTube channel and Twitch stream, where we talk about writing and RPGs. No, seriously, Brian, thank you for reaching out to me to do this, because this was all Brian's idea. I can take no credit for this whatsoever. Brian noticed that we both have YouTube channels and was saying we should do something together. And I'm like, hell yes, we should do something together. And then Dani and Eric, I'm afraid you got roped in, because I know you and I love you both and just wanted to talk to you again. So thanks so much to you guys. And when Dani's back, we can play and discuss.
That would be lovely.
And make it official.
That sounds good. Yeah. So, all right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much to everybody who joined us in the chat. Please do ask some more questions, and we'll speak to you all again in the future. Thanks a lot.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.